They say time heals all wounds. But my wounds didn't heal me, they made me. Those wounds gave me a strength I never knew I had inside me. They thought they had hurt me, but they didn't know that with that wound, they had lit a fire inside me. A fire that would one day turn their entire empire to ash. 10 years, for 10 long years, I have lived a false life. I became a helpless, voiceless pawn and played their every game. I agreed with their every move. I bowed to their every command. I became the pride of their parties, the ideal daughter-in-law of their house. And they mistook my silence for weakness. They mistook my tolerance for defeat. Today, when their empire, their pride, their every dream has turned to dust, when they have fallen from the sky to the ground, they are all looking at me. There is no hatred in their eyes, only one question: when and how did this happen? They can't believe that the woman they treated like dirt under their feet is standing before them as the cause of their destruction. So let me tell you the story of my revenge. From the beginning, the very beginning. It all started exactly 10 years ago. My name was Isabella, a simple woman from a middle-class family and the mother of a beautiful son. My world was small, but it was full of happiness. My dreams were ordinary: complete my studies, get a good job, and support my parents and my child. I was an intern at an architectural firm, working on the biggest building project in the city. That project belonged to the Sterling Corporation, the most powerful, the richest, and the most feared family in the city. At its head was Alexander Sterling, a man so powerful that not even a leaf moved in the city without his permission. One evening, I was working late at the site, putting the final touches on some blueprints. The night was deep. Suddenly, I heard voices. Alexander Sterling and his younger son, Ethan Sterling, were arguing with someone. I hid behind a curtain, terrified. They were threatening a contractor who had refused to use substandard materials in their project. The argument escalated. What started with insults turned into a physical fight. And then, in the darkness, I saw something that made my soul tremble. I saw Ethan attack the contractor, and Alexander Sterling, instead of stopping him, helped his son silence the man forever. I stood there, holding my breath. A murder had happened right before my eyes. I wanted to move, to run, but my feet were frozen to the ground. And then, in my panic, a metal ruler slipped from my hand and fell. A small clink, but in that silence, it sounded like an explosion. Alexander Sterling's eyes turned directly towards me. In his eyes was a fear he had probably never felt before. He had found a witness. In a moment, his men were on me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came from my throat. They grabbed me and threw me on the ground in front of him. Alexander Sterling looked me up and down. His eyes held the silence of death. "What is your name?" he asked in a voice like stone. Isabella, was all I could say. "Did you see?" I tried to shake my head no, but my courage failed me. My silence became my confession. Ethan moved towards me in anger. "Let's finish her too, Dad." "No." Alexander stopped him. "Killing her would be foolish. She works here. Her disappearance will start an inquiry. We can't take another risk." Then he looked at me, his gaze like a hawk studying its prey before tearing it apart. "There is only one solution for this. Bring her so close that she can't even think of speaking against us." The very next day, a marriage proposal from the Sterling family arrived at my house. Not just for me, but for my family. They asked for my hand for their elder son, Julian Sterling. My parents were stunned. They couldn't believe the city's biggest family wanted to make their daughter-in-law. They didn't know the reality behind it. For them, it was a dream come true.
For me, it was a death sentence.
That same night, Alexander Sterling called me to meet him alone. "You have two choices, Isabella," he said in plain words. "First, say yes to this marriage and live a life of luxury as the Sterling daughter-in-law. Keep your mouth shut, and you'll get everything you've never even dreamed of. Your son will be safe with your parents.
You will be allowed to see him.
The second path, you know where it leads. And don't even try to imagine what will happen to your son and your parents." The face of my son flashed before my eyes. His smile, his future. And in front of that, the power of Sterling. I knew if I refused, not just me, but my entire family, my child, would be destroyed. With tears in my eyes, I lowered my head and said yes. The wedding was magnificent. The whole city watched. Our pictures were in every newspaper. The story of a common girl whose fate had changed. For people, it was a fairy tale. But only I knew that I was being caged in gold. At the altar, as Julian put the wedding ring on my finger, I made a vow to myself. Soaked in tears, deep inside, I made a promise to myself. You people think I am a pawn. You have forced me.
Fine.
From today, my life has only one purpose. I will play your game. I will make your moves. And I will become your weakest link until I become so powerful that I can overturn this entire empire, this chessboard, along with every single piece on it. This is my promise to myself and to my son. That day, at that altar, Isabella died. And a new character was born, Mrs. Isabella Sterling, the ideal daughter-in-law of the Sterling family, and the first brick in the foundation of their destruction. My first step into the Sterling estate was like entering a prison. It wasn't a home, but a palace where secrets were buried in every wall and every person wore a mask. My role was made clear to me. A beautiful trophy wife whose job was only to enhance the family's honor and always remain silent. My husband, Julian Sterling, was a shadow of his father. Arrogant, a womanizer, and completely unaware that his wife was a living time bomb for his family. He married me because his father ordered him to. He saw me as a necessity, not a partner. 2 strangers lived in our room. He spent his nights with friends, at parties, and returned home by morning. I never asked a question. I kept pretending to be an obedient wife. I would wait for his return as if I cared so much. He didn't care about my concern, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to blend into his life so much that he would stop noticing me altogether. My real target was Victoria Sterling, my mother-in-law. She was the matriarch of this house, obsessed with her status and power in society. She was strict and viewed everyone with suspicion. I decided that if I wanted to enter this fortress, Victoria would be the gate. I put on the costume of the ideal daughter-in-law. I woke up first in the morning, ready to assist with her morning routine. I followed Victoria's every command. I started memorizing her likes, dislikes, her schedule, every little habit. In the beginning, her eyes were always on me. But my constant flattery and obedience slowly started to show results. 2 years it took me to make this mask my reality. In these 2 years, I hid my tears in my pillow. Every night, when Julian was passed out drunk and I would clutch the hidden photograph of my son, I stood in front of the mirror and reminded myself of my purpose. These 2 years were a test of my patience. Every day I broke on the inside, but on the outside, I remained as silent as a stone. The Sterling family was now completely convinced that the girl named Isabella was under their control. She was a voice that was now silenced forever. And that was their biggest mistake. Because I wasn't silenced, I was just waiting for the right moment. After winning Victoria Sterling's trust, my next stop was Alexander Sterling's world, his business empire. This was the hardest part. Alexander was a cunning and extremely sharp man. He didn't fully trust anyone, not even his own sons. His world was one of numbers, deals, and power plays, where one small mistake meant ruin. I played a new move. I started telling Victoria, "Victoria, I get so bored at home all day. Julian is busy with his work. I wish I could also help Mr. Sterling in his business, lighten his burden a little." Victoria liked the idea. She thought it would strengthen my position in the family. She spoke to Alexander. "She is our daughter-in-law. She's educated. What will she do sitting at home? Give her some small job in the office. It will keep her occupied." At first, Alexander disagreed. But with Victoria's persistence and the thought that what harm can this girl possibly do to me, he gave me a role like a personal assistant in his office. My job was to organize his files, schedule his meetings, and handle his personal finance documents. This was exactly what I wanted. I had been given the keys to his treasury. I was an architecture student, but now I was studying finance, accounting, and corporate law. I took online courses, read books. I wanted to understand everything that ran that dark empire. One night, while going through some of his old property papers, my eyes fell on a strange transaction. A very large piece of land, which was in the name of Sterling Corporation, was sold to a shell company at a very low price. Then, that same company sold that land to the government for an infrastructure project at a price many times higher. The owner of that shell company, Phoenix Enterprises, was not mentioned anywhere. This was my first clue. I started researching the company. After sleepless nights, I dug through corporate records. And finally, I found the name that was hidden so deep. The owner of Phoenix Enterprises was Victoria Sterling. Alexander was running a shell company in his wife's name to engage in insider trading on government projects. This was a massive financial crime. This was the first secret, the first weapon that fell into my hands. I gathered all the evidence, bank statements, property deeds, company registration documents, and I hid them in a place no one could ever imagine. My confidence had grown. I stopped just collecting information, and now I started to play. I began to weave my web. Now I had weapons, but I had to learn how to use them. I knew if I acted in haste, everything would be over. I had to hollow out this family from the inside. And for that, I had to use their own against them. My first target was Ethan Sterling, the younger son. Ethan had always lived in the shadow of his older brother Julian and his father. He had an inferiority complex and was always seeking validation. I started to get closer to Ethan. I would tell him, "Ethan, your business sense is amazing. It's a different matter that your father and brother never let you come forward." My words soothed his ego. He slowly began to trust me. He started sharing his feelings with me, how he always wanted to start his own business, but Alexander never allowed it. I fueled this dream of his. "You should start something of your own," I advised him. "Prove to your father that you are also something." I even offered him some money from my savings. It was a trap. I provoked him into investing in a business whose rival was a major client of Alexander Sterling. Influenced by my words, Ethan secretly started the business. As soon as Alexander found out, a storm erupted in the house. For the first time, such a big rift appeared between father and son. Alexander destroyed Ethan's business, and Ethan's heart filled with hatred for his father. He had unknowingly become my pawn. Now it was my husband, Julian's turn. Breaking Julian was the most important. His biggest weaknesses were his pride and his womanizing. He was having an affair with a model. Instead of leaking the photos I had secretly taken, I started to poison Julian's mind. I would tell him, "Julian, you work so hard, but your father takes all the credit. You are the true heir to this empire, but you are still treated like an employee." I was fanning the flames of his ego. At the same time, I started poisoning his mind against Ethan. Look how Ethan is secretly building his own business. What if he snatches your rights? Father, brother, and son. I had sown the seeds of doubt, hatred, and enmity among the three of them. They lived under the same roof, but now they had become enemies. Their attention was so caught up in their internal fights that they never thought about who started the fire. During these years, I died and lived every day, sharing a bed with Julian, ignoring his infidelity, faking concern for him. All of this wounded my soul. But when I woke up in the morning and saw the Sterling family fighting among themselves, my wounds felt a strange sense of comfort. I was slowly breaking down the walls of their empire, one brick at a time. Now the chessboard was set. The pieces were in their places, ready to fight each other. I now had evidence against every member of the Sterling family. The files of Alexander and Victoria's financial fraud, my personal testimony of Ethan's involvement in the murder, and evidence of Julian's affairs and his involvement in illegal betting syndicates. All I had to do was make the final move. I created an anonymous identity. With the help of a hacker, an old college friend who had been ruined by Sterling Corporation, I started leaking their secrets. The first strike was on the media. I leaked parts of the deal between Phoenix Enterprises and the government project to an investigative journalist. The next day, newspaper headlines accused Sterling Corporation of insider trading. Their shares began to fall in the stock market. Alexander went mad. His suspicion fell on his business rivals, but he couldn't find the source of the leak. After this, I struck the family. I had Julian's affair pictures delivered to Victoria Sterling in a way that it seemed a well-wisher had sent them. Victoria, so obsessed with her family's honor, shattered upon seeing them. All hell broke loose in the house. It wasn't a fight between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, but between mother and son. The most dangerous blow was struck through Ethan. He now completely hated his father and brother. I took him into my confidence. I convinced him that his father had always been unfair to him, and now it was time to take his right. I gave him evidence of some of Alexander's other dark deeds and instigated him to raise his voice against his father in the board of directors. I assured him that some board members were with him, whom I had already turned against Alexander with anonymous tip-offs. In the board meeting, Ethan accused his own father. He raised issues of financial irregularities. And at that very moment, I sent an anonymous complaint with all the evidence to the IRS and the SEC. Now the Sterling family was cornered from all sides. The business was collapsing, the family was broken, and the law was closing in. They were all blaming each other. Alexander thought Ethan had betrayed him. Victoria thought Julian had dragged their honor through the mud. Julian thought Ethan wanted to take his place. They were burning in a fire they hadn't started. And I, standing among them, watched everything. The same innocence, the same silence on my face. I was still their ideal daughter-in-law, standing by them in this time of trouble. They never, not for a moment, suspected me. The final nail in the coffin was when the police arrived at the Sterling estate to reopen the file of the 10-year-old murder of the contractor. An anonymous witness had given them a new tip. That witness was me. The 10-year wait was ending. The game had reached its conclusion. The Sterling estate, once a symbol of power and pride, was now a house of mourning. An IRS raid was in progress. Media vans were crowded outside. Inside, every face was pale. Alexander Sterling, the man at whose voice the city trembled, was sitting on a sofa like a defeated player. Opposite him, Victoria sat broken. Julian and Ethan were glaring at each other with hatred, and I stood quietly in a corner. To them, I was still the poor, innocent daughter-in-law, sharing in their grief. Just then, Detective Miller, who was leading the case, walked in. "Mr. Sterling, we have found solid evidence against you. Financial fraud, money laundering, and murder." Alexander shouted, "This is all a lie. Someone has framed us. This is a conspiracy by my enemies." "Enemies?" the detective said softly. "Your enemies are right here in your house, Mr. Sterling." He looked at Ethan, then at Julian. Both brothers started blaming each other. "He did all this." Julian screamed. "He wanted to take my place." "Lies." Ethan roared. "You were the one who provoked Dad against me. You were afraid he would give me more attention than you." Seeing them fight, Victoria broke down in tears. Alexander held his head in his hands. His empire was crumbling before his eyes, and he couldn't understand where it all began. Then I stepped forward. Slowly. Everyone's eyes fixed on me. In my hand was a small flash drive. "Stop." My voice had a coldness they had never heard before. Complete silence fell over the room. Everyone stared at me in shock. "They didn't do this," I said to the detective. "All of this, I did it." For a moment, the silence in the room was so absolute it was as if time had stopped. Then Alexander laughed. A mad laugh. "You? You did all this?"
Do you even have the status for that?
I looked at him. There was no fear in my eyes now. "You were the one who gave me the status, Mr. Sterling. 10 years ago, when you killed an innocent man and imprisoned an innocent woman in your house to silence her testimony." Every face, every eye, now turned to me. On their faces was not surprise, but shock. "Phoenix Enterprises," I looked at Victoria, "through which you all grabbed government lands. You are the owner, Victoria. Here are the papers." I looked at Julian. "Your betting syndicate and your affairs, because of which you caused the company millions in losses. Here is the proof." Then I looked at Ethan. "And that contractor, whom you murdered?" am the eyewitness to it. Finally, my eyes rested on Alexander. You thought I was a pawn. You forgot, Mr. Sterling, in chess, when a pawn reaches the last square, it becomes a queen, the most powerful piece. I handed the flash drive to Detective Miller. This has every piece of evidence you need, Detective. Every transaction, every phone call, every secret. Alexander Sterling looked at me as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes no longer held pride, only a broken, defeated question. Why? His voice faded to a whisper. What did we not give you? Wealth, fame, the honor of this house, you had everything. You gave me everything, I said, looking straight into his eyes. Except for one thing. Freedom. And my life. You took my son from me. You thought you had bought me. But you didn't buy me. You bought a downfall for yourselves. For the past 10 years, every single day, every single night, I have waited for this day. You thought I was a glass doll. But I was the mirror in which you all had yet to see the reflection of your sins. The police were taking them into custody. Victoria was crying, cursing me. Julian and Ethan were looking at me with murderous eyes. But it didn't matter to me anymore. I walked out of the estate. The sun was rising. After 10 years, this was the first morning I was breathing in free air. The media rushed towards me, bombarding me with questions. I didn't answer anyone. My revenge was complete. People ask, did I find peace? Did the fire inside me cool down after taking revenge? To be honest, I don't have the answer. When you burn in the fire of hatred for 10 years, that fire becomes a part of you. The Sterling family was destroyed, but the shadows they cast will perhaps always remain with me. By destroying them, I didn't deliver justice. I just settled the score. Perhaps that is the difference between justice and revenge. Justice heals wounds, and revenge only assures you that the one who gave you the wound is in more pain than you are. I have come very far from that city. To start a new life with my son. Maybe time, which could not heal my wounds, will now lighten their scars. Maybe. This was the story of my revenge. A story that began in helplessness and ended in destruction. What do you think? Did I do the right thing? Be sure to tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to this channel.